We bury Jesus on Good Friday, in ritual, not in fact, because that's now over 2,000 years ago. But the whole Church Universal went through, we go through this Holy Week every year. Not for Jesus, but for us. Because there's something about what happens this week that affects the whole world, whether we connect the dots or not. The scriptures say that Jesus was put in the tomb for 3 days. Now that's important because that 3 days means he was dead. Not that he wasn't totally dead and that because those who didn't want to believe this were the rumors being spread that they did a little CPR on him. Did a little resuscitation. There is a big difference between resuscitation of a corpse and the resurrection of Jesus. And I'd like us to reflect on this morning. The difference between resuscitation and resurrection. Resuscitation is coming back from the dead. How many times do we say, when we get sick or when we become disabled or handicapped, I want to go back to the way I was before I got sick. I want to resuscitate what used to be but isn't anymore. We kind of think that's what resurrection is. Well, let's just, we have bad days. We want good days again. Please, Lord, give it to us. Make me better. Make me feel like I did before I had bad times. And very often it doesn't happen. And we become very disillusioned. Very easy to become cynical and brittle in our world today. Doesn't take any imagination. Easter is not about going back to something. It's going ahead to something. Resurrection is about, for Jesus and for us, it's about transformation. That's major change. You can't go back. This week, I picked up on the internet my Easter homily. The title, Can Winning Really Take Care of Everything in Tiger Woods' Troubled Life? Now, I am sure the last thing you expected to hear this morning was this. However, I take my inspiration wherever I get it. And it came here for me this week. And you're going to get it. And it begins with, it's a commentary on Nike's advertising about Tiger Woods. The quote, "Winning takes care of everything. Winning takes care of everything." And then a little of the highlights of the story. As prodigal golfer, Tiger Woods resumes the world's #1 ranking. His chief sponsor, Nike, unveiled a slogan Tuesday that provokes robust debate on what is redemption and has Woods attained it. Now, by the way, we are not passing judgment on a person by the name of Tiger Woods. But it is public domain, and we eat, sleep, and drink this stuff, so I think I have a little bit of license to use him as a symbol when we're thinking about connecting the gospel to life. God is the judge of Tiger Woods and you and me and the whole world. This is not about judging the person, but we have the symbols in our society kind of tell us, feed back to us what we believe and what we think is important and what isn't. Winning takes care of everything is what Nike declared on its social media outlets after Woods completed his long climb back to the top ranking, more than 3 years after his affairs ruined his marriage and embarrassed him. The passionate opinions roiled during a week when redemption is on the minds of Jews celebrating Passover and Christians preparing for Easter. The controversy grows from whether winning indeed absolves transgressions and even prompts us to return to grace. The narrative plays out in different ways for different public figures. The slogan refers to how Woods has motivated himself to become the top golfer again, Nike said. He last held that rank in October of 2010. Tiger has always said he competes to win. This is Nike speaking of him. When asked about his goals, such as getting back to number one, he has said consistently, winning is the way to get there. The statement references that sentiment and is a salute to his athletic performance. And let's give him credit, he's the number one in the world. In professional sports, winning can indeed overshadow a lot of other things. For example, a winning coach won't be fired for players accused of sexual assault or for facing too many DUIs. Usually, a coach is fired because they're not winning. So it may make me cringe as a parent. I can't help but think of the fact that winning does seem to solve a lot of problems. And if you're losing, that's when everything else is more highlighted. At issue for Woods is whether he, like so many other celebrities whose professional lives are damaged when they fail personally, has redeemed himself as a merely public figure or as a human being. Certainly in his job, it's a redemption story. Whether it is for him as a human being and his character, who knows? You have an overly long list of people who are winning, whether they are in sports or box office draw or selling platinum albums. The world tells them they're wonderful and they're number one, and their sense of probity and respect for others or your own self tends to evaporate. That's when a lot can go wrong. Well, our faith is in a person who was not number one, but was at the bottom of the heap. Jesus Christ, who died on Good Friday. Jesus is a failure. He was not elected because he was popular, or he was not what people would want him to be, which is why they killed him, to get rid of him. God's ways of working constantly rub our noses in what we think is important in life. We have to take the death and resurrection of Christ, and we must say, do I believe in resuscitation or resurrection? Tiger Woods, you and I cannot redeem ourselves. We can resuscitate a little bit. We can make changes. We can learn from our mistakes. We can strive to do better. But transformation is about love. And love is the gift of God that transforms us from being self-absorbed people into people whose lives are not second to ours, but they are first. They are the number one. We then fall in line after that. It is a total reversal. Resurrection is that I am not number one, you are. Resuscitation is, let me get to the top again, and usually at your expense. And that is the eat, sleep, and drink of 24/7 of our society. That is the value that motivates us. Winning is everything. No, it isn't. Because we celebrate in our faith failure. And human beings, with all due respect, have to fail so that God can prove who God is. We learn more from our failure in life than in our successes. That is the cross. The crosses of our life are the love of God given to us to wake us up to what we think is important and to what isn't. And it will always be the transformation of our life, not our game. How do the Tiger Woods of the world, they can be number one in their job, and we all want job excellence, and we do appreciate and worship that. There's not enough of that. However, in the matters of the heart, when you talk about maturity, the ability to place oneself sacrificially there for each other, a lot of this we do and don't even think about it and take credit for it. A lot of it is foisted on us and we don't want it. But all of that is the way in which resurrection comes. That's how God works in reconciling us to himself through the ups and downs of life. We should not take this life too seriously or ultimately as this is the whole game. Because in the end, we were created for a life that's more than being number one. God will be number one, not my ego. That's what I have to learn. And we learn it very often the hard way. But learn it we must. To learn it is the grace of God and a little bit of Easter in our lives every day. So let us think about, do we want our life just to be resuscitated, to go back to when it was better than it is now? Or if it's good, we don't want to lose it? Or are we looking for a deeper quality of life that really bonds us together in family, in community, in the world in which we live? We have to look at this world as the way we saw it from the moon. That's how God sees us. It's not about who's number one. We're all together in this. When are we going to learn it? How are we going to learn it? And how will it transform us into a better way of life as a rule of thumb? Because we're all going to die and leave this world. Even the Holy Father, who I've been saying of late, I can't stop watching this guy. I mean, he has every day it's something different. In his one of the homilies during Holy Week, he quoted his grandmother, who said, "There are no pockets in a death shroud." Now, we would translate that, there's no, there's no Brinks truck following your hearse to the cemetery. Or think of all of the things that what do people put in their caskets as remembrances of this life? I think we ought to leave that pretty light for the next. Because most of these trinkets have nothing to do what it's really all about. We need to wake up, folks. The gospel is a challenge to the commonsensical way that we live. We think it's common sense. Common sense is not that common. We need to die ourselves to the old and be transformed into something newer and better. You don't measure this numerically, you measure it quantitatively. And that is the love that moves the world and moves us with each other every day. And that's what will carry us into our eternity. May we be renewed in that sense of value and purpose and rethink, if we want to be in the camp of Jesus, we got to follow him through the Good Friday of letting all this other stuff go, to live a different quality of life that changes us. This is God's grace, changes our life together, and makes this world a much more livable place until the time when we will share it together in the heavenly kingdom, where there will be no squabbles over who's number one, no more tears, no more sadness, and no more sad endings. Happy Easter.